Hey everybody, this is B from Talk Tech. We're going to do another troubleshooting Linux video. Today we're going to be troubleshooting SSH. Um, I ran into a recent issue that I was just like, what is going on? Why is this not working? This is actually kind of a somewhat companion to my most recent SSH video on securing SSH. So go check that video out if you want more on securing SSH. But yeah, this is my second video doing this in like the last week. So these are more impromptu, not really scripted or anything like that. But I just want to go through troubleshooting an issue because troubleshooting is honestly what a lot of tech is about. It doesn't matter um, what part of the tech world that you're living in. You know, it could be software side, hardware side, somewhere in between, security side. There's always going to be troubleshooting in one way, shape, or form. So this is you getting to watch one guy do it. So if you want to see more videos like this, make sure you're subscribed, hit the bell button for notifications. Leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. So let's go ahead and dig into the issue. So if you saw my recent video, you know that it was about securing SSH. Now, when it comes to SSH, there is a designated configuration file, and I'm actually going to show that to you here. Here we are on an Ubuntu server. So let's go ahead and just cd over to etc sshd underscore config, not d. Oops, I'm sorry. What am I doing here? Not cd. Let's go do a sudo vim and then etc ssh sshd underscore config, and this is the central configuration file for SSH. So let's go ahead and take a look at that here. I'm gonna put in my password. Perfect. And you can see a lot of stuff here. Now, I'm not going to be going through this stuff in detail. You can actually go to the man page for the same page. It's going to be man sshd underscore config. There we go. You can actually get the meaning of all of the different sections. I shouldn't say sections, but the different options that you can fill out for this file inside of this man page. So go check it out. You can learn a lot there. That's where I go when I need to set configurations for SSH. So man pages are your friend. All right, so let's go ahead and quit out of here. Let's clear this out. I'm going to go back to the actual configuration file. So let me explain to you what it was that I was attempting to do. So what I was attempting to do is I was attempting to set password authentication to no, in which we haven't made any adjustments to this file since we've been in this video, so we can clearly see that I have set password authentication to no. So in theory, this should work. I should not be able to log in with password. So let's go ahead and test it. All right, so here we go. We're going to come over here, and first we're going to do it with admin user. All right. We can see that it didn't even prompt us for a password. That's because we have certificates for this user. So that's not even an issue, right? So, okay, cool. So we're good there. All right, I've got another user though. The test user. So let's go ahead and check it out. Let's see if it'll let us. Because this front, I can tell you right now, does not have a certificate set on this server. So let's test it. That's weird. You see that? I'll show you again. Just in case you missed it. Password. And there it is. Because we just saw that if it was going to use a certificate, it wouldn't even prompt for the password, but it still prompted for a password. I put in the password, and then it accepted the password. What's going on here? So some of the steps that I took is I retyped this out. I retyped it out. I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I spelled something wrong. It's kind of weird, but all right. Usually it doesn't turn yellow if something's wrong, but maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. So yeah, that didn't work. So I was like, all right, well, let's exit out of here, because one of the next things that you're gonna want to do is do a sudo systemctl restart SSH, or SSHD if you're on a Fedora or Red Hat system. There we go. Let's try it again. Didn't kick us out or anything. So all right, there we go. Well, that didn't work. Okay. So the next thing that we're going to try is the classic troubleshooting technique of restarting the system. So let's do that. Let's do a sudo reboot. All right, give it a second there. There we go. All right, it has rebooted. Let's try it again. What? Okay, that's still doing that. But let's do a sanity check here. Clear this out. We're gonna do a sudo then etc ssh sshd underscore config. And we can still see that it says no. So what are we going to do? You know what we're going to do? We're going to go to our old trusty friend Google. Well, in my particular case, we're going to go to Start Page, which is just a privacy-focused kind of like front end to use Google to do Google searches without actually, all the Google stuff and all that kind of stuff. Though I do let them provide sponsored ads and stuff like that, so it may not be as privacy friendly. But honestly, I just like to diversify, where I'm letting people take advantage of my privacy. So here we are. But yeah, so I went ahead and I did a search. I did a search for SSH still logging in with password when password authentication is set to no, because that is exactly what's happening. And honestly, Googling is a science. It takes practice, and you may not have thought to ask that. And honestly, that's where I start first. I'm like, okay, what is my question? Well, let me see if somebody else has that question. That's exactly what we did here. So I didn't try to get anything fancy. Google foo, I heard somebody call it the other day. I know in security circles they call it Google dorking and stuff like that, which is a term that's been around for a long time and stuff like that. But yeah, and actually the very first hit there is actually something talking about it. It says, why can I still SSH into my Ubuntu machine using a password? This is the etc ssh sshd config file on my Ubuntu 20.04 on OVH. OVH hosting, showing only non-commented lines for brevity. So we can see here that just like mine, this user has password authentication set to no. And he shows permissions and stuff and gives some more context. But I can tell you right now that it is indeed the same issue that we are facing here. But we get a very, very interesting answer here. If we come down here, we get the 4 answers. It says, Ubuntu Debian distributions have the non-standard entry. Include etc ssh sshd config .d. And the first time I looked at that, I was like, what? Yeah, this was a directory that was completely new to me. I had seen it there inside of the Etsy SSH directory, but I was like, yeah, okay, well, sure. That's literally my response. So let's exit out of here. All right, let's just do a. All right, let's clear this out. And we're just gonna cd over to it. Etsy SSH. And let's do an ls. And here is the directory that I'm referring to. This one right here. SSHD config _config.d. Now let's go ahead and just cd over to that directory and see what happens. All right, we can cd over there, and what? There's a file in here. Okay, and this kind of caught me off guard because I'm gonna get to his response. You may have already read the response in the when I had the screen up, but one of the first things that I do is when I look, I've gotten more familiar with Debian over the last couple months because I've been using, well, maybe it's only the last month, but I've been using Debian for my home server, and so that's where I go. I'm like, hey, what the heck's going on here? So I do the same thing, and look, actually did one on it, and if we do an ls of that directory on my Debian system, there's nothing there. So it's like, well, what? What's going on? What's the deal here? So let's go ahead and go back to our post. and see, because clearly something's going on. But actually, no. Let's do one thing before we do that. Let's do a cat in this 50 file cloud init.conf. Whoops, let's gotta do a sudo on that. And it says, password authentication, yes, which completely goes against what we put in that configuration file. So, all right, let's go ahead and go back to our post. Let's see what this person says. So yeah, and they said, let's see, and they show the directory here, but they also show the slash star comp, and they're actually referring to a spot in the SSHD config file. So let's go back to the SSHD config file. Right, where is it? Here we go. This one right here is what they are referring to. And essentially what's happening here is it's including the anything in the etsy ssh sshd underscore config.d directory. Okay. Let's see if we can find out anything from the the man page. And look, we just come just a little bit down here. Look at this. It says, note that the Debian Open SSH package sets several options as standard in the etsy ssh underscore config file, include etsy ssh underscore config.d star.conf. And when we look a little bit more, it says those files are included at the start of the system-wide configuration file, so options set there will override those in the etsy ssh underscore config. So what are we learning here? One, we're learning that, hey, this 50 init cloud init file.com file can override our ssh underscore config file. We also learned that we didn't really need to go and do Google. Like this is literally at the top of the man page. So we didn't really even have to go down really that far. It's right there. And and it says right here, the purpose of this is to allow users to customize their SSHD configuration without monitoring the core SSHD file, which can minimize conflicts or unexpected configuration changes of an apt update. Now, so really what's happening here is that we essentially have a configuration directory. And what's going to happen is that these are going to get read after our file. So our configuration file, so it's going to be like, oh, yeah, I know you want it over here. I know you said that, yeah, no password authentication. But over here, we're going to go ahead and override that because it says yes over here. And there can be a variety of reasons. This could be something that somebody has set, like, administrator or something like that. It can also be like a program or something like that. Like it needs some type of specific permission set for an application, so it sets it there to make sure it gets the configuration that it needs. This is not going to be just for SSH. This is for really any application that's out there. So it has that possibility, and it's a good thing. It's actually a good thing because it offers a lot of flexibility. Machines don't do a great job of editing files that are already existing, especially like ones humans have been messing in. So this gives a program, an automated solution to be able to put together some configuration to have it over, to give it preference over the actual configuration file because it needs it for that. And I'm not super familiar with these, but I'm not sure if like that how that impacts the applications entirely, like if it's specific just to that one, or if it's maybe different ones, because like we're talking about SSH here, but how does that impact SFTP, which is something that's underneath SSH, so it's one of those things. Maybe I'll do a video on in the future just to kind of maybe get a better understanding myself, but also give you guys a better understanding of myself. So what do we got to do to fix this? So this would be a pretty easy fix. We could do one of two things. We can delete this file, or we can come in here and just put a hashtag at the beginning, exit out, do a sudo system ctl restart SSH. Perfect. And try it again. See what happens. And permission denied. That is the response that we wanted there. So, what did we learn here? Well, we've already talked about quite a bit what we've learned here, but we've learned that we need to check these other directories because this is not going to be the only application that has a configuration directory. So if you see a directory with the .d at the end of it, that is a configuration directory, and there may be overriding files that are in there that are going to override, some of the base configuration inside of the base configuration file. So you want to go check in those locations. Yeah, that is pretty much all that I had to say about this one. Yeah, thank you so much for coming along on the ride in this troubleshooting journey. Make sure you check out this other video from my channel as well. Remember, mistakes make you better, so keep on making them. Thank you so much for watching my videos, and have the greatest of days.